Right. Good evening, everybody. Dr. Lenny Roberts from Summit Spine and Wellness, and I appreciate you joining me this evening on a topic that's near and dear to my heart. I've done this talk in the past, but due to the circumstances, haven't done any talks in quite a while. So it's exciting to be back and sharing some information. But this is called How to Live a More Active, Healthy Life to 100 and Beyond. And I hope that along the way here tonight, you can learn some information, take some takeaways that are practical and applicable for you and potentially your lifestyle, and can get you more suited to be ready to live a more active and healthy life to 100 or however many days we have left on this planet here. So a little bit about me, for those of you that don't know, Dr. Lenny Roberts, born and raised in Roxborough, was a team doctor for the 76ers from 2009 to 2015, and then been working with Temple football since then, and founded Summit Spine and Wellness the day before 9/11. So it was September 10th, 2001. So we just had our 20th anniversary a few months ago, and can't believe how fast time flies when you're having fun. But it's been a pleasure and a privilege to be able to serve our community in the neighborhood where I'm born and raised, my family's from, and a pleasure to be here with you tonight. So I'm going to jump in and share a story with you. And the story's about, I wish I would have known that years ago. And I'll share a story. I was in a seminar in Minneapolis, and I've been to Minneapolis twice. One time was for a seminar that wasn't too good, and the other time was for the Eagles when they won the Super Bowl. So this is about my first time. I won't bore you with this story, but it was 4 years ago, about a week and change ago, that the Eagles won the Super Bowl. But the first time I was in Minneapolis, I was at the seminar, and it didn't turn out as I had hoped. And I got caught in traffic on my way back to the plane. I had a rental car, and I needed to fill my car up with gas. I had no idea where I was. Long story longer, I'm in a crazy rush. I'm running late. I hate being late, and I need to get gas. So I find this gas station. I run to the gas station, cut somebody off to get in line. They're beeping their horn at me. I get out to put the gas in. They're screaming at me. And I realize I don't have the gas tank, the car on the right side. I was on the wrong side of the car. So I tell that story to someone when I get home, and they say, well, why don't you just look at the gas meter? I'm like, what are you talking about? And they said, well, if you look at the little arrow on the gas, there's a gas tank on the gas meter. Anyhow, this was the first time I had known that or heard that, but that was a mistake that I made that I'll never make again, that little arrow, in case you're not aware of that, and hopefully that saves you from ever missing a flight. But check that arrow, and it tells you what side of the car the gas tank's on. So there's your first takeaway. So this is a picture of me when I was 20 years old, and I had hair. I had a really sexy shirt on, and I'm wearing 46-inch pants. And I had 40 operations at the time, I think. Maybe I had all 6. I've had 6 knee operations total. But I played college football and hurt my knees. And basically, this isn't just about what someone looks like physically, but I was on a very, very, very bad path. I was eating like crap. I was drinking excessively. I was depressed. I was frustrated. I was unsure what I was doing with myself. And I had put a lot of weight on, and this is me and that awesome shirt. So I knew at that point in my life that I was not on a path for success. And again, wishing I would have known years prior that what I was doing was not a good behavior. It wasn't sustainable. But it took me some time to learn that lesson for myself. So no one gave me here's the arrow, go this way. I had to learn the lesson on my own, and really was close to hitting rock bottom at that point in my life. But fortunately made some changes that have put me, even with being on this call right now, and how I got to be a chiropractor. So pretty cool. But I want to share the definition of health, because for me, I wasn't really sure what that was. But this, according to the World Health Organization, they say that the state of optimum physical, mental, and social well-being, not just the absence of disease. So most of us think if we feel okay, we're healthy. And that can be the case. Sometimes we feel if we're sick, if we have nausea, fatigue, if we're have a headache, if we have some type of condition, that we're not healthy. But I'll use an example. My daughter, about 3 weeks ago, she had a stomach issue and she wasn't sure what was going on, and she wasn't feeling well. She laid down and she vomited. So I'm going to ask Loretta. Loretta, you want to join in here? If you can unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Hey.
All right. Loretta, is someone vomiting? Is that a sick response or a healthy response?
Healthy.
Awesome. Tell me why.
Because you're taking out whatever the toxin is or whatever the mess is that's causing you to have the problem.
Loretta, you just want a half-hour massage. Awesome answer. And very, very, very true. So
yes,
a lot of times people would respond that, oh, they think it's being, you're sick, your body's sick, you're throwing up. That can't be healthy. But that's exactly the case. Her body got rid of what was inside of her. She threw up, went to bed that night. The next day woke up and was fine. So Loretta, congratulations. Thank you. And that wasn't even scripted. You jumped right in there. Thank you. So this is what the talk is about this evening. This is a woman named Madame Jeanine Clement. My French is not that great, but Jean Clement was 122 years old, 122 and 164 days. She's the oldest person known on record to have lived that long on the planet. Now, the statistics I'm going to share with you in a second here on people living, I'm going to jump into this. Here's some different articles, Time Magazine, people living 108 years old. I have a great aunt who was 104 when she passed away. I don't know if any of you other folks have relatives that have lived and reached that milestone, but it's an amazing milestone. But if the generations that have already reached 100, a lot of them were blindsided by that. The life expectancy when many of them were born was 45, 46 years old. So they're more than doubling their life expectancy. So right now, the average life expectancy for someone in the United States is 77 to 79-ish. There's certainly variables with that and whatnot, but if someone's born today, actually life expectancy has gone down for the first time in quite a number of years. And the reason with that is because we're not really taking a very proactive approach to health and to following this definition of having optimum physical, mental, and social well-being. We live in a society where in the United States, we make up 5% of the world's population, and we consume 50% of the world's medication. Now, the last thing I'm here, I just got off the phone with my best friend, and I had a pretty scary situation actually earlier today where my mom got some test results back, and they were concerning and they were a bit ambiguous. And my best friend is the head of a hospital, chief medical officer for a hospital. So he was someone that I called because I certainly respect his advice. And there's a chance that my mom may have had some not fun stuff going on. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like that's the case. But there's absolutely a time and a place for medications. From my perspective, though, it's not every time and every place. And in our society in the United States, we're often taking medications and then there's side effects, and we're taking medications for those side effects, and it can become a very slippery slope. So I'll raise my hand. Anyone here know anyone that has lost their life as a result of overdosing or misusing or even potentially taking properly prescribed medications? Anybody else? A couple folks are off there, but it happens. Unfortunately, you don't have to look too far to find someone, either a friend, a family member who's no longer with us as a result of that. And again, not my place. I'm not saying don't take anything at any time, but look at health as an approach from the inside out rather than the outside in. In the United States, we spend over 2.6 trillion years on healthcare, over $8,000 per person. And I'm going to ask for another person here that's not blanked out there, but let's go. Denise, can you unmute for a second?
Hi.
Awesome. Thanks for jumping in, Denise. Appreciate you. So, Denise, would you consider the healthcare system in our society as a way that promotes optimum health?
Absolutely not.
All right. Do you mind sharing why?
Because it's not available for everybody.
Okay. Good answer. Good answer. Denise, you're going to get yourself a half-hour massage too. Thank you. You can unmute. So Denise has a great answer that it's not available for everybody, and that's certainly an important topic. And I definitely think that in the United States, we should all be able to get healthcare, and that's not going to get political by any means, but that's something that I think that we need and deserve. But my point in talking about this is actually that if we take the way that things are labeled, our healthcare system often isn't geared towards promoting health. but more managing symptoms and treating sicknesses. Does that make sense? William, I see you shaking your head. Thank you for shaking your head there, buddy.
No, I
So
agree.
in our society, again, we have a reactive approach to health in a lot of cases rather than a proactive approach. So the greatest generation, again, we touched on this a little bit earlier, but the average person, when they reach 100 years old, they're doubling their life expectancy. So if ours is, let's just call it 75 for the sake of numbers. If life expectancy today is 75 years old, that would mean someone was expected to live 75 years, but then they doubled it. They would live to 150 years old. We have a potential, each and every one of us, to reach this milestone, to reach 100 years. And if we are going to reach that milestone, does it make sense to wait until we're 99 and a half to make some plans? Or should we try to be more proactive in our approaches? There's one thing you have to do in order to live an active, healthy life to 100 and beyond. One thing. And I'm going to pick somebody else on here. All right. Renee, can you unmute?
Yes, I'm off of mute now, and I just
All right, Renee. Thanks for joining us. Renee, what's the one thing you have to do to live to 100 or beyond? It's a little bit of a trick question, Renee. I'm going to give you a heads up on that.
Yeah, I can feel the trick. I just can't see it. I can't see it. But I would say to be mentally, spiritually, and physically sound, but physical connected to the your nutrition.
Love it. Great answer. Great answer. And you pretty much encapsulate that, Renee. So we're going to give you a massage as well. But the one thing, just one thing you have to do is not die.
Okay.
Stop killing yourself. And I want to share another story here. These are the top leading causes of death in both men and women. And the vast majority of these are at least partially, if not completely, preventable. And I'm going to use a heartfelt example on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the sixth one down. The sixth one down, anybody, again, a lot of folks are, the video's off, but you don't have to look too far to know someone who's dealt with diabetes. And my father basically died from the effects of diabetes. So he had a situation where he had type 2 diabetes, which is extremely, extremely controllable and if not reversible with proper diet, proper exercise. And I had many a talk, some hollering matches, some crying with my father over the years. And he would think it was a joke because the diabetes wasn't painful for him. It wasn't an instant, you know, if you have this piece of candy or this piece of bread, you drop dead that next second. But it's a systemic disease that gradually over time, I talk about this in chiropractic often about, think of your body as like a big, bright, vibrant light. And then that word, that subluxation, is like a dimmer switch on that light where the light's still on, you're still functioning, but gradually over time, lose less and less function. And unfortunately, it's the straw that broke the camel's back analogy, where he felt fine enough to walk into the gym at LA Fitness on June 20th, several years ago, and didn't walk out. So he didn't directly die of diabetes that day, but it was decades before of the choices that he made. And those choices continued to build up and break his body down. So several other of these heart disease, a lot of types of cancer can be, you know, I don't want to say cured. You can reduce your effects of many types of cancer with proper diet, with exercise, with those sorts of things. Exercise is one of the best things you can do for issues with Alzheimer's, brain function, you know, cognitive function. Keeping your body moving, keeping your body functioning is a crucial component to our overall approach to health. So just remember that one thing you need to do is not die and stop killing yourself. So this is from the book called Dare to Be 100. And the author of this book is Dr. Walter Boritz. He uses the acronym of DARE is for diet, A is for attitude, R is for renewal, rest, recreation, retirement, and resilience, and E is for exercises. exercise. So that pretty much encompasses exactly what Renee said. Having optimum physical, mental, emotional well-being, and talked about diet. It's absolutely essential. And it doesn't have to be an all or none approach. You don't have to work out for 7 hours a day, every day of your life. You don't have to eat perfectly healthy, organic, grass-fed, whatever, every single meal of your life. You can have occasional, cheats and enjoy life and enjoy some of the nicer treats and those sorts of things, 100%. And I think that's a big part of life and living a healthy, happy life. But finding that approach and having balance in that approach is critical. So use the piggy bank analogy. It's essential to make more deposits than withdrawals in your life and in your lifestyle. And our bodies are so incredible at handling what we do. And we're almost 2 years into the most stressful time ever in the history of humanity, and certainly since I've been alive. And the stresses are at an all-time high across the board. You throw, homeschooling and all the different things going on, and you put the news on for 10 seconds, it's gonna elevate your stress levels. So from my perspective, I stay well informed, I read things, but I definitely don't sit there and watch that 24-hour news cycle of the 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7, 8, 10, 12, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12. Again, the cycle of constantly sharing all the different things going on in the world and the politics and the anger and the hatred and the who got shot and carjacking. It's rough. And I'm not naive enough to know that it's not all rose-colored glasses out there. I'm well aware. I do stay connected and do stay informed. But to bombard yourself with that information on a constant basis, you need to fill the tank back up, and you need to find that balance and that threshold in your life to try and make more deposits than withdrawals. So since I got to do this talk, I get to decide what the slides are. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the health component of our spine and nervous system. And as the Journal of Neurological Science says, the quality of healing is directly proportional to the functional capability of the nervous system to send and receive nerve messages. And posture, we talk about that just a little bit in the office, that affects and moderates every physiologic function, from how you breathe, your nervous system function, every single thing's controlled, how your heart beats, how your lungs breathe, how you digest your food, how your toenails grow. Everything is under the direct control of that nervous system. This is one of my favorite pictures, where this is, I don't know if anyone of you have seen the Body Worlds exhibit. They used to have it at the Franklin Institute years ago, but this is basically a dissected nervous system where it shows that brain sending messages through the spinal cord, out through the nerves, to every cell, tissue, and organ in our body. And having that proper structure and that proper function is absolutely integral in having a healthy life and lifestyle. So again, we talked about that word subluxation, and just to step back for a second, sub is less, lux is light. So we break that word down, it's a dimmer switch between the brain and the body. And that can happen from a variety of different things. I'm going to share some of those in just a second, but here's a picture of birth trauma. Here's a picture of two kids getting into an argument, the mom in between pulling her hair out. And here's somebody sitting at a desk. So those are just some of the examples. And there's a cigarette as a back, it looks like. But these are just some examples of great interference in that connection between the brain and the body. So the 10 oldest bridges in the world all have one thing in common. They all look like this. This arch on this bridge, this is the oldest bridge known to man. It's in ancient Greece. This bridge is over 3,200 years old. This archway is still utilized. That should look pretty darn familiar to this bridge. It's right in our backyard. The arch of that bridge, that arch configuration dissipates the weight of that bridge over that entire arch, and you see those aqueducts have more and more of the same thing. It's an engineering concept, and that arch gives it much more support and stability than if it was just a straight up and down bridge. That same arch is what we look for in the side view of someone's spine, here in the neck and here in the low back, facing the same way, opposite arch in the mid back. Straight on, we should have a nice straight line. And this is what can happen if this is the jaw, the skull, and here's the bones that we should have in our neck. It's a nice squared off edge of the bone and a nice happy, healthy disc space in between. The disc acts as a shock absorber. So this is a component that happens in most of society where people tend to shrink as they age. This process is happening much, much, much more rapidly because of technology and because so many people lose that normal curvature and their head shifts forward. And if you see the difference in the spacing here and here, even though the line's going over it, versus these spaces here, there's much less space in through here. And for those of you that can see me, it's the same concept. If I have a nice relaxed heart-shaped curve here, my hand's nice and relaxed. If my head shifts forward, think of this as the neck, pressure and tension builds up, and this area starts to break down on the body. So this can lead to herniated discs, bulging discs, spinal stenosis, nerve compression and irritation. So posture is something we talk about very often in the office, and there's a reason why. The posture houses our nervous system. Our nervous system controls and coordinates every single function in the body. It's really straightforward. So here's again some examples of where those nerves go. So up in the neck, goes into basically everything up above your head, into your sinus cavity, the headaches, balance issues, sleep issues, going into your thyroid gland, affecting your metabolism, going down your arms, hands, and fingers, right up in here, in the upper thoracic spine, the area that gets a ton of stress and tension from so many people having their head shift forward, puts pressure and tension on the direct nerve flow right into our heart and lungs. So this T2 to T5 area here is critical. Somebody on the call here are friends of Dr. Paul, and listen to him, talks about it all the time. That T2 to T5 region is a direct nerve flow right into that heart and lungs. So when you have that lousy posture, you're putting more pressure and tension. You're creating less than optimum function in your whole nervous system. Then as you work your way down, goes into your stomach, kidneys, liver, pancreas, spleen, and then lower back, bladder, colon, prostate, sex organs, and down the legs into the toes and feet. So this is an example of how that nervous system, if you don't maintain that proper posture over time, this is basically going from that one side to the other. That loss of the proper curvature can start to break the body down. You start to lose disc height. You start to get compression and tension on the nerve fibers, and you physically lose height because you don't have those shock absorbers. And you're compromising and irritating your nervous system. So we have this poster in the office, but it talks about how heavy is your head. You know, if you have a 12-pound bowling ball right here, and then you hold it out in front of you, it's still 12 pounds. But each inch that comes forward on our spine, that 12-pound bowling ball, this talks about a 42-pound head. Each inch adds an extra 10 pounds of stress and tension on your body. So I know a lot of you right now are hiding your cameras, and that's totally fine, and you're muted. But if you get yourself into a really lousy posture, just play along with me for a second. Just pretend like you never heard about the importance of posture. We're not talking about it now, but just get yourself in a lousy position. Act like you're on your phone or computer. Some of you hopefully have to move a long way to do that because you're sitting in a good posture. But if you take like 2 or 3 deep breaths, deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth, just play along with me. I won't make it too long. You're still breathing. Your heart's still beating. But if you get yourself into a nice upright posture and do that same 2 or 3 breaths, whatever you did, you're going to notice a difference. You're going to consciously notice a difference. What happens is we get so wrapped up in our games, our devices, our Facebook feed, our work, whatever we're doing, and we lose the consciousness of that, and this becomes our normal. And so many people are spending hours and hours and hours a day on these devices, and they're completely unconscious to the effects that this is having on your body. And that is not just potentially creating pain or numbness or tingling, but it's compromising the optimum health, the optimum well-being, the optimum expression of the intelligence, what we call innate intelligence, the inborn intelligence that we don't have to think about how our blood gets refiltered and we produce new red blood cells. We don't have to think about when we should stop breathing in and start breathing out. We don't have to think about our hair growing. Yes, I still have hair that grows. I have to shave it. It doesn't grow as well as I'd like it to, but it is what it is. But there's so many countless processes going on in our body that are under the direct control of the nervous system. And if we don't maintain proper posture, we're breaking our bodies down over time. So here's some more examples of what can cause subluxations. I'm going to work backwards. So we showed this picture already. You know, the screaming kids that for those of you that have children that can get quite mentally stressful. You know, we all have taken spills, whether that's learning to walk as a child or rollerblading or skateboarding. I got a nasty concussion. I fell on my face. I was skateboarding down Henry Avenue, actually like right on Henry, like right behind where the office is. When they first built those homes before Summit Park Apartments, I was skateboarding down the hill and my friend was in front of me and he was a really good skateboarder. Well, what happened is I was coming down the hill. They didn't fill in the dirt. There was dirt here and then the driveway to go in the back end of Summit Park. So basically it was coming down the hill, brand new pavement, everything's cool. And then there was dirt. Well, he skated through it and like stumbled. I skated and fell face first onto my face, broke my nose, broke my finger, concussion, was knocked out, and wasn't fun. So I've had several of those types of situations, and my mom, I'm sure, has some stories that I don't even remember. But we talked about this, you know, car accidents. Obviously, I hear often people tell me that they were in a car accident, the car was totaled, but they were fine. Well, that's a testament to your body that you may have felt fine. You didn't have any bruising, you didn't have any denting, you didn't have a broken tire or a broken windshield. Your body absorbs the same impact that car does. It's just that we don't bend, we don't dent, but that same pressure and tension is absorbed by our body. And this is often and this is something I'm very passionate about, and I'll share this. I checked my kids' spines, both of them, before my wife held them. And the reason why is there can be in utero constraint. The birth process can certainly be traumatic, and it's traumatic for the mother. I've never given birth, don't want any part of it. But that's when the first subluxation can occur is being pulled, twisted, yanked out of the birth canal. It happens all the time, and that's not anybody's fault per se. But my perspective is that child and every child should have their spine checked. And we work with a lot of athletes. I think a lot of you are aware of that, but they certainly abuse themselves, whatever the sport may be. Bumps, bruises, concussions, all sorts of things. Traumatic injuries, absolutely. But here's some of the more subtle things. We talked about the computer posture, but the same thing. A lot of people read in bed. Awesome. If I read in bed, I'm going to fall asleep within like 3 minutes, and the book's going to fall on my face, and I'm going to wake up and try and go back to sleep. But that position of that head being forward under those pillows, even if you're not reading, if you're sleeping and you have 1 or 2 pillows underneath you, you're in that same forward head posture, and you're putting pressure and tension on your spine. And these are the types of things that if you're going to live 100 years, so whatever age you may be, if you're 50 years old, I'm pushing 50, so I hopefully have 53 plus, more years, until I hit 100. But I want to plan now on minimizing the stressors, the tensions, the imbalances on my body. And this picture here, there's not a whole lot of corded phones anymore, but so many people are putting their cell phones up on their ear with their shoulder, or they're bending over improperly to pick things up, or they're laying on the couch, or they're sleeping improperly, and they're putting stress and tension on their body. Talked about that one a bit. So this talks about how sitting is the new smoking. And I think you guys can still see me, but I'm going to share. This is my office chair, and this is my office chair at home, where it's the wobble chair. And a lot of you folks that are in the office have one of these, and it's geared towards putting motion and mobility into my spine. And the reason why I do that is, one, it doesn't have a back to it. So I have to engage my core. I have to stay aware of my posture. And again, I'm trying to do what I can to try and keep my spine, my nervous system as healthy as I can, not just today, tomorrow, but over the years and hopefully decades and many decades to come. But there's no running away from it. The more you sit, the poorer your health and the earlier you may die, no matter how fit you are, according to Runner's World. So no matter how much you exercise, no matter how much you eat healthy, organic, grass-fed, just vegetables, a plant-based diet, if you sit for hours and hours a day, your chances of dying prematurely are exponentially higher because of how much stress and tension that puts on our body. It's hands down the most common thing we see, that forward head posture where the ear comes forward over the shoulders. And that can lead to a variety of different things, from headaches, arm pain, arthritis, muscle spasms, stretch blood vessels, disc decay. We talked about that already. So always encourage people to stop humping in public. You don't want to do that in public and have one of these. Keep that for someplace else. All right. Here's an example of what happens with someone when they shift to the side. And I have a disc herniation from a car accident I had in 2010, where I was going to the gym, trying to do something healthy for myself. And someone in a big Denali SUV ran a red light and totaled my car. I had a substantial amount of imbalance. And for me, I knew I wasn't like needed to go to the emergency room. They asked me if I wanted to go to the hospital. I said, no, thank you. I went directly to my friend who's a chiropractor's office, got x-rays, got adjusted, and got into traction and worked on putting that bend back into my neck. I was definitely uncomfortable. I was uncomfortable for several days. I had a disc injury. But instead of me taking things to cover up my symptoms, and again, there's a time and a place for those sorts of things. But for me, I knew that I needed to get my body back in balance as quickly as possible. So I got adjusted. I did traction. I used my TENS unit. I got really well hydrated, and I laid low for a couple of days, got adjusted multiple times over the days. But many times people with the disc issue have disc surgeries. And again, there may be a time and a place for that, but it shouldn't be the first line of defense. You know, I have an uncle who had 5 lumbar disc surgeries, 5 on the same area. They kept going in, snipping away the disc, snipping away the disc, snipping away the disc. Instead of working on his biomechanics and reducing the pressure and tension on his body, it was called this analogy of that pressure and tension breaking down that disc. That disc compression over time, this is what often they'll do. Maybe give you a steroid injection or go in and snip that disc out instead of trying to remove the pressure and tension. So this is I think a critical slide. We're talking about feeling good versus functioning good. And I'm not drinking coffee for those of you that think I am. I'll share that with you maybe afterwards. But feeling good, this is a continuum where on the right end here is 100% optimum health, optimum well-being. On this end is disease, very poor quality of life, limited function. And this is where most of society tends to live, in the if it ain't broke, don't fix it mode. Really, my point in sharing this information with you tonight is, again, if you have the potential, we all do, everybody on this call, on this Zoom, has the potential to live an active, healthy life to 100 or beyond. Some of you may want no part of that. But if you could maintain your brain and maintain your function and maintain your ability to play with your grandkids, if you could do that and continue to live an active, healthy life, wouldn't you want to do that as long as possible? I would. If you're going to be decrepit and you're going to lose quality of life, and you're going to be in constant pain and those sorts of things, then maybe you want to check out earlier. I can understand that. But most of our society tends to live in this if it ain't broke, don't fix it zone. And gradually over time, they keep taking steps and steps further and further along this pathway, losing more and more function, taking more and more medications. And again, not judging that, I'm just making it's a fact. Typically, the older we get, the more medications we take. And some of those are absolutely positively essential. Some of them aren't. We take more and more medications and we continue to lose more and more function. And this is where my dad was, where he felt okay enough to walk into LA Fitness, but he wound up not being as okay as he thought he was. So it's judging our health by whether or not we have symptoms, whether we just feel okay, is not always a good option. Getting regular testing, regular physicals, those sorts of things. Having a proactive approach towards trying to take steps towards this. Having a good mental attitude. Having proper exercise, proper nutrition. Being positive goes such a long way. You know, especially over these last few years, we've been bombarded with, you know, stay home, don't hug your mother, wear a mask, don't, all this stuff. And again, I'm not going to get into this at all politically, but from a standpoint of promoting optimal health during this time, from my standpoint, I haven't seen much of that at all. You know, we were told not to even go out and exercise, gyms were closed down. Having your nervous system control everything in your body, you need to challenge your body. You need to continue to engage in activity. You need to walk, you need to swim, you need to weight train, you need to mountain climb, or whatever your thing is. You have to engage your body and continue to do so and continue to shift things and challenge it in different ways. It's essential to continue to take steps further along here, or else this is going to happen over time. That's my dad and my 2 kids, and I shared enough of that story, and I don't want to cry, so I'm going to skip the rest of that. But this is a slide that I really think is important as well. It says that health is our #1 asset. You know, if you lose your health, it doesn't matter how much money you have in your bank account, how many friends you may or may not have, if you were nice to people, if you volunteered at your church, it doesn't matter if you lose your health. And this is something that the Dalai Lama says. I'm going to read this. So that when he asked what surprised him most about humanity, he said, man, because he sacrifices his health in order to make money. And he sacrifices money to recuperate his health. And then he is so anxious about the future that he does not enjoy the present. The result being that he does not live in the present or the future. He lives as if he is never going to die, then dies having never really lived.
What will your last 10 years look like? Will you be quick enough for a game of tag with your grandchild? Strong enough to embrace every moment? Will you grow old with vitality? Or get old with disease? It's time to decide.
Basically, the point in that video, the healthcare choices that you make today are going to affect the quality of your life, not just tomorrow, but in the future. And I hope that I came across this evening. I certainly don't have it all figured out. By no means. I am nowhere near perfect. I definitely continue to try and engage in the game of life. I try to do a lot of things proactively and take care of myself, but I'm nowhere near perfect. But I hope that by being with us tonight, you got some tips, some things to think about. Some of them you may have heard already, maybe needed to hear again. But really look at the small, subtle things. You know, the one thing that a lot of this talk is based on is a book called The 100-Year Lifestyle by a friend and mentor of mine, Dr. Eric Plasker. And Dr. Plasker talks about change is easy. Thinking about change is hard. You know, we can all say, oh, I need to start an exercise program. I'm going to start on Monday, or I'm going to go get myself some new shoes, or I got to get my new cute outfit, or I'm going to figure out which gym I want to go to. Or I could just start doing some squats right now and start exercising, and I could do 10 squats. And that might gas me, that might completely, you know, wipe me out. Wherever you're finished, no judgment, but you can start doing little things and then try and build on them and keep building on them and keep in the game. You know, I really, really, really hope that you can think more proactively on taking care of yourselves and being more aware of the things. Yeah, I'm definitely biased. Taking care of your spine and nervous system is a critical and often overlooked component to healthcare. And William, I see you on there, so I'm going to ask you to unmute for just a second. Thank you for joining us. But William, I'm going to ask you a question.
Sure.
Most of our society judges their health on whether or not they have pain or symptoms. I'm going to ask you, what percentage of your nervous system actively perceives pain?
All of it.
Okay, good answer.
100%.
All right, good answer. So William, you're going to get a gift certificate, but unfortunately your answer is not correct. And that's a common answer. And you kind of fell into my trap there, William. So I apologize, but thank you. So most people think that, but the overwhelming percentage of our nervous system is controlling function, controlling how we digest our food, how our toenails grow, how a baby grows in someone's body. I mean, that's the most astounding example of the intelligence side of our bodies. The vast majority of our nervous system is not perceiving pain, but it's controlling function. And that's the really big ticket with trying to promote optimum health, is not just basing things on how you feel, but how you function. critical. So William,
Okay.
appreciate you answered that. You fell into my trap there a little bit, but thank you very much. That's what most people think about. And that's why I wanted to share that tip before I forgot, because that's not a great way to measure your overall health and well-being.
Well, point taken.
Good work. All right. So that's what I have for you. I'd be happy to try and answer any questions, but just really appreciate you all and your time for joining us this evening and being a part of this. We're going to be doing some more workshops on different things, and we're certainly open to requests. So if there's something you'd like to do, we have a lot of different things we do, fit, sit. We have different stuff on hormones and whatnot. But if there's a topic that you'd really like to find out more about, we'd be happy to try and do some research and put something together and share it with you. So feel free to just respond back to the email that got you on this link. We surely don't have all the answers, but we'd be happy to try and share what we can and continue to be a resource for you.
Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Any questions on anything?
I have a comment.
Yes.
When in the beginning you spoke of longevity, on Saturday, unfortunately, I will be attending a funeral of one of my sewing students. She would have been 104 on the 17th of March.
Wow.
And she was a very spry lady.
Love it.
I spoke with her last on New Year's.
Nice.
So she passed away on, I think, on the 7th of February.
I'm sorry for your loss, Loretta, but it sounds like she had a wonderful life.
She did.
That's all you can hope for. None of us know how
Right.
long, when our clock expires, but to try and make
Right.
the most of each day and to live positively and be happy and spread that, I think is crucial. So thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
I'll
Any
share
other-
a takeaway, Doc.
Sure.
I was just thinking about, when you were showing that scale there of the wellness,
Mhm.
or on one side, and then kind of comfort zone, and then illness, and how you're saying most people live in the comfort zone, and then over time, gradually, sometimes not even noticing it, right? We inch back towards illness. And I was thinking, well, what if I just did the opposite? Like what if I just slowly inched out of my comfort zone? And I think that's exactly what you said, is it doesn't have to be the all or nothing, but sometimes it feels like it, right? Sometimes it feels like, well, if I'm not going to make it to the gym 5 times a week and be a vegan and, go to therapy and have a vision board, then what's the point? And so I think that kind of inching mentality could be the thing that just, even if you just stay in the comfort zone, maybe that's prolonging things even, perhaps.
I appreciate you sharing that, James, and that was absolutely my intention. And again, to say I don't have it all figured out, I certainly don't. But things like deep breathing exercises, like you don't have to go to a gym. You can do that anytime, any place, anywhere. I do Wim Hof regularly because for me, I kept getting into my own head too much and like, am I meditating or not? My brain's going a zillion miles an hour. So for me, Wim Hof would just kind of guide you through some breathing exercises in a very chill, tranquil voice. Like I listen to that and I have my kids do that every night now. So for them, they're like, I don't want to do it. And I'm like, well, if you want to touch your iPad, you're going to do it every night. And you do traction at the same time. So that's our routine. And, it's become really cool. Like now they look forward to it. I'm like, I'm going to make sure we get off in time so we can do your traction and Wim Hof. So there's, and I'll share some resources if anybody wants, like the things that I do that I found helpful. I'm in the same game. And what Jamie just said, Jamie, I really appreciate you sharing that, but it doesn't have to be a elaborate ordeal, just small, subtle, just like the micro traumas of this. If you can change that, if you just have a couple deep breaths, or you go for a walk, or you sit outside in nature and get some vitamin D and sunlight. I mean, not a whole lot of that right now, but those small incremental steps can go a long, long way and shift that, a gradual shift. And change can be easy, but thinking about it can be really hard. So I appreciate you sharing that very much. Thank you.
Yeah. And to that point, I'll also just share with the group that I know some of you, I don't know all of you. I am one of the newer staff members at Summit, and I'm organizing some of these virtual events for us. So just the next one we have coming up is currently scheduled for March 4th, which is a Friday at 1:30, and it's going to be a mindfulness workshop. So exactly what we're talking about here, of taking that, maybe it's 5 minutes, maybe it's 12 minutes, maybe it's while you're doing your traction, but just finding ways to kind of find peace and calm the mind. It doesn't have to be as elaborate as meditation, but it's going to be with a local mindfulness teacher in the Roxborough area. So we'll be sending out emails and posting on social media. So if you're interested, we hope to have you join us for that as well.
Thank you, Jane. Any questions or anything else? Awesome. Well, I appreciate you all joining us this evening. Feel free to reach out or shoot an email. And I really thank you for your time and for joining us. Have a wonderful
Okay.
rest of your night.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lenny.
Thank you, Lenny.
Thank you, Dr. Lenny.
Thank you guys.
Thank you, Dr. Lenny.
Thanks, sir.
Thanks for joining us.